Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our Tuesday evening discussions with fascinating people. And we have somebody quite fascinating here. You may recognize him. Used to live amongst us, Ari Werbler, Rabbi Ari Werbler. So, first of all, thank you. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to our Tuesday evening discussions. How are things down in Southwest Miami?
Thank you for inviting me. It feels like coming home a bit to Mishpacha, basement Menachem, not just the shul of family, but I
Very
guess
much so.
when you ask how things are here, we try to take some of that here. It's like really a family. So that's how things are going so far.
So let's get started. Give us a little background. How long have you been in Southwest Miami? How did you wind up there? And what does the community look like in Southwest Miami?
So we've been here a year. We just hit our terrific twos, I like to say, and the community is amazing. I mean, I'm inspired more by them and I guess hopefully as much as I have to contribute as well. We meet a lot of people. There's a lot of the community where we are has changed a lot. There was Hurricane Andrew, and as many of you may be familiar, there's a lot of Jews in Florida. So it's not that they're not here, but the nature of things, just by divine providence, the way the community has changed over time. There's just a lot of pockets of people, and the most times when I meet them, they say I'm the only Jew here. I'm like, well, that's what the last guy told me. So um, thankfully, the more people we meet, the more I am inspired by their stories, and they're coming into our family and being really part of family.
So take us back a year and tell us you showed up in Southwest Miami. Who
Yeah.
did you know there? Did you know anybody? And then how did you meet that first person? You say that's what the last person told me, but how did you get started with the first person? What attracted you to that community in particular? Give us a little bit of a sense of you show up, you start unpacking boxes, and you hit the ground running. How did that start?
Well, one of the first things my wife did, which is, everything, was something called Taste of Shabbat, which is we continue to do that now. It was the idea of bringing, a bit of Shabbos to everybody. And there's a lot of people here who are homebound or maybe not homebound, just want a kosher cuisine, something more traditional, something from home. And showing up at somebody's door with a Shabbos package or a challah or something, it really speaks to, like, hey, someone else is thinking about me that I didn't even expect to be doing that. And,
Hmm.
and there's been just many stories that have come from that, and people that have come into her home. One not related to that also came through my wife. She was on uh, Facebook Exchange for toys. And we call her Fun Stuff Phyllis, or I don't know if she's on the call, Aunt Fega Tzipora and Uncle Shlomo. So they both had, my wife went over there to look at toys, and they started talking. You're Jewish, and so from them, I mean, they're like the greatest ambassadors we have. One of the one of the greatest ambassadors we have here, and wonderful to see them almost weekly.
Fantastic. Well, you mentioned about your wife. What about your kids? Tell everybody maybe doesn't know a
Yeah.
little bit about your children and what was the adjustment like for them to move to Southwest Florida?
We were really blessed. Baruch Hashem. Thank God. I think when you go out as a family to do something like this, everybody takes an elevation. Like, and I'm not even just saying that. My son really thrived. He just finished the eighth grade. He's going to start Masifta next year, and he's taken a whole new, you know, an ability to express himself and his personality, and the schooling here is really accommodating to a wide variety of different Jewish backgrounds and personalities. Rabbi Garfinkel is great. Rabbi Twersky is also fantastic. A big shout out to him in Chicago. And my girls too, just moving into a place where they had more friends and a lot more interaction. We are a bit removed, which is a little bit adjusting for them, but by the time we get home and it's time for schluff time, hopefully we try, but they're really enjoying their friends and community, and there's a lot going on. It's farther, so the being here on Shabbos sometimes in Yontif was an adjustment from the Beis Menachem West Rogers community, but pretty quickly, once we, thank God, started meeting people, the ability to give and be part of that has really awakened them to like see, where they can contribute and who they can, what they could share at the table more in an even more meaningful way.
So I guess like every shliach, you go out really just with sheer enthusiasm. It's not like somebody gives you a playbook. What are some of the things that you found have really surprised you? What have been some of your biggest challenges? What were things that you're sure were going to be a hit and maybe weren't? Things you didn't think people would be interested in and they flocked to? Can you give us some of those growing pains now in the look back after year number one?
Yeah. Well, they're certainly not done. Like I said, terrific too. It just means bigger boys, more problems. Well, not more problems, but more things to work through. But yeah, I would say the biggest challenge, probably, and Rabbi Epstein, when I came into Beis Menachem in between Mincha and Marv, you were giving a class on kind of a Hasidic dictionary. And one of the words you said and ways you translate the word bittul was kind of no agenda and kind of this transparency. And I think for a lot of people, that idea is hard to adjust to. Actually, the world is so transactional. There's even a guy, I brought him a challah, and he didn't want to take it because he was saying, well, this means you're going to think I have to come to you. And I'm like, that's why I'm bringing the challah for you. So, there's no expectations. And we've developed a good relationship just by me showing up to his house and discussing a lot of things that are going on in his life. So that's probably been the biggest challenge, but also the greatest opportunity. Rabbi Mendy Felig, who has a big part to do why we're here, he told me an example. He started on campus 15 years ago, or no, much more than that. That's when I met. But he said it used to be that you didn't just ask somebody for their cell phone. Right now, everybody has their cell phones, and so especially a college student would be like at least 3 times before he would even ask them, to feel comfortable from their little circles. And I think people do get comfortable, but relationships take time. So that's both the biggest, I guess, um, challenge, but opportunity that you build that relationship by being sincere. There's no agenda. What's most needed for them, and for the people we meet, and they have. Everybody has such a depth to contribute as well.
Well, can you tell us what your community what's the feel there? Is it people who've been living in Florida for a long time? We get the sense up here that everybody just moved to Florida last week.
Right.
Everybody's new. Is that the sense of it? Is a newer community? It's a community that's sort of more entrenched. What's
Um,
what's the vibe of the community?
yeah. Okay. So there's a little bit of everything. To better explain that. Again, like I mentioned, like you had Hurricane Andrew, you had COVID, so you have a lot of Jewish families that have been here for a long time. But now, again, many synagogues have closed down. It's something we talk about, the idea of a shul being a synagogue, which is really, I think, how it always was. The idea of it being this, spectator sport. And I don't know if Simcha's on the call. He told me that this week, that he was going somewhere and he felt like he was watching, but here he feels like a participant, you know? And I think that you have those people who have been here, and a lot of shuls have either moved away, closed down because of that lack of connection. And the people are still here from those generations. And on the same hand, you mentioned, on the other hand, you mentioned like our new family just showing up. Yes, to that also, actually. Um, Florida, many people move, but then they associate, they move to maybe Miami Beach or North, where more of the Jewish community is already established. But I was going 2 blocks away here, and I see a mezuzah on this guy's door, and I start talking to him, and he moved here 2 weeks ago. Like you said, actually, he moved here 2 weeks ago because on Miami Beach, Florida is not affordable in any sense of the word, but compared to living on Miami Beach, where you get a box and the guy's sitting next to you, where here they have 3 kids and he could have a little bit more land, and he works from home anyway. He might as well move out here. So we started talking, and he's happy that we're here, and so I'm happy to meet him as well. So we get a little bit of both those things.
Now, where you're located, how far is that from what we would consider the sort of the hub of the Jewish
Yeah.
Chabad community?
Okay, so there's many Chabad Anash communities, say more communities in Miami. There's North Miami Beach, there's Hollandale, now Hollywood. There's mid Miami Beach also, which is less now, but I would say they're all going to take you with Miami traffic 45 minutes to an hour to get anywhere. And
Oh my.
actually, to go 5 miles from where I am, and I was just mentioning one of the older couples in our community who have been here for a long time. Said he used to bike. He used to work for the public government here, and he used to be able to bike down Miller Road, which is what we live on, to work. Now that 5 miles could take you 20 minutes by car, and so we have that reality here as well. But it's we're probably as west and south and considered Miami still without falling into the Everglades with alligators, and all that.
So you've talked about the people and their adjustment to the sort of overcrowding or this new influx. What about you personally? You took a little bit of a unconventional route to your shlichus. How have you adjusted without getting too investigative here? How has it been for you to be on the sort of other side of it and to be in a less densely populated, frum community? What's that been like for you, maybe for your family, and that kind of adjustment?
Well, I'll tell you, when my wife and I were dating, I think my wife had asked one of my teachers, does Ari want shluchus? And I'm not saying this to my own credit. He said to her, he is shluchus. And the idea also, but the Rebbe had spoken about at the time that, with not just at the time, but in general, that if you have a certain degree and a certain thing and an ability to use that is also a very powerful shluchus. We're all shluchim in our own regards. So the timing and development of this was obviously divine, and it took the right time and the right community at the right time in history for us to be there. For me, it's just I'm just very grateful to be here. It's an incredible opportunity in schus, and we see incredible blessings. You mentioned about my family. Like I said before, everyone I think takes a certain level of an elevation through the process, and we've experienced that here just in being able to be a part of it.
Can you pinpoint what's the most rewarding thing and what's the thing that surprised you the most that you never would have anticipated, for benefit or for challenge?
Yeah. So I would say as Reb Grossman there says, every moment is a mitzvahtunity, right? so that's the greatest reward, is seeing that, so, again, this woman who was here on Hanukkah said, are you a success? I said, this conversation is a success. This every moment is really that. The greatest, reward, I would say, again, I'm not using, not really that word, but I guess reciprocal feedback from the work we're doing was this past Friday night, we had 18 people at our Shabbos table, and 3 or 4 of the couples who have come each brought somebody else. And they were talking to each other about plans for Rosh Hashanah, like how we're going to make it good. And so the best is to see everybody's a shliach, that everybody else feels like an ambassador too. We're just providing the soil for the seeds to grow. Like we're just the home that people feel comfortable to come to. But the best part of it is seeing everybody else feeling their own inner wealth and an ability to share something. As far as a surprise, I would say nothing and everything. That the idea being that I'm not going to teach a mimer here now, but it's translated in English, the simple servant in Samach Vav. Not that I'm at such a level, but again, the feeling of this kind of reciprocal effect that happens, not because of what you put in, but what comes out is always much greater. And I think everybody could probably experience some of that in their lives, in setting an honest intention and doing the actions that follow that, Machshava Dibra Maisa, and you're doing the best you can in those areas. The outcome is often much greater than you expect. So it's a surprise every time you show up at somebody's door with something and they're like in tears that like, how did you know right now? And I'm like, trust me, I didn't. I was ready to go home, but I'm here, and it's amazing. And this woman was in tears, whatever. It's so there's countless situations like that, which is just inspiring.
Well, Rabbi, you and your family are an inspiration to us. If you have one story that you could share with us, and if anybody wants to unmute and maybe jump in, I see maybe some people from your community, and they can maybe share a little bit, or maybe somebody has a question, or or something. If we don't want to keep you too late, we really appreciate your time and enjoy it. I know it's later there.
Yeah.
I'm sure you got a big day tomorrow, but if there's maybe a story, doesn't have to be the most dramatic, but something that really communicates what it's been like for you and your family and your community celebrating 1 year. What's the look back and you go, wow, I remember that.
Well, I guess there's one story that includes a lot of the things that you have asked. So before coming here, I came pre moving out here and was giving out matzahs. And there was this was kind of a preempt before we had this Taste of Shabbat thing, and we gave matzahs. I met this one older lady who spoke to me in Yiddish. I was in her home, and she was grateful that I came to visit her. And I was excited. Here's somebody, and like you said, who did I know before I came? I kind of knew her, and then we came back, and my wife had this idea for this Taste of Shabbat, and we had dropped off some challahs with the Taste of Shabbat menu for if you need anything else. And we got both a text and I think an email back from someone saying, "Thank you so much. I've been so alone since my mother's passing." So this was her daughter, who single mother. She was raising her son, who was an adult child now, but not a child, but an adult individual, and she was she had a very close relationship with her mother, and she very much wanted to participate in this Taste of Shabbat program. And she was mentioning to us, actually that unfortunately somebody had, who worked in the home, had, stolen some money, which was supposed to be to help pay for her headstone. So here we are. We were. I'm not here to tell sour stories, but it's more a positive outcome, I guess. So I was speaking to my wife about it, and my wife kind of like turned pale, not completely, thank God, but she mentioned that somebody, we're part of the community too here. So somebody had said, listen, I want you to go take your kids out, do something for yourself. They saw how much we were preparing for all these foods, and then all the things, Yom Tovim that were coming. And my wife said it's the exact amount that this woman needs. And I was like, wow, like that's unbelievable. And I was like, well, don't worry, we'll still go out for pizza. Like, don't worry, we'll figure it out. And she's like, of course, So I remembered we dropped off the Taste of Shabbat and we put in an envelope, where it's needed most. And she had texted us back. I'm floored by the kindness. And since then, she came for Sukkot. Her son I actually spoke to just the last week. He's a security guard, and I mentioned how in the Beis Hamikdash, right, the guards were not there just for security, but for prestige. So he has a very prestigious position, and so I remember calling my wife on the way home and telling her that, don't worry, we'll go out for pizza. There's no problem. We'll figure it out. And when we got home, actually, there was another family who was picking up food. They were planning on hosting a bunch of people that evening, and my wife had prepared a whole thing and had rededicated the same amount back. So that was 3 times the same amount in the same day.
Wow. So these people gave you money for your personal enjoyment. You gave it to this woman, and now somebody else.
She gave it back for, and it's obviously for more Shabbat meals. I mean, it's for, and then also that week's parsha was about the man. And
it's always enough.
The teaching that everything nowadays is really just to do what we're needed for. There's always that opportunity to go out and do what we need, and so that really brought a lot of that perspective you said about surprises. We don't know where it's coming from, and in meeting people, sometimes people tell you, no, thank you, and then they're saying, oh, I'm definitely coming next week. So we don't know where it comes, what happens.
Well, Rabbi Yashikoach, to you, thank you for staying up late and sharing your story, and for all that you're doing there in Southwest Miami. And we miss you here, but we feel like maybe we have a little bit of your success there, because we knew you when. and we're honored to know you now. If anybody wants to jump in with a quick comment, question, or query, otherwise we'll let the rabbi go for the evening and thank him for his time. Okay. Thank you
I
so
just want
much.
to say
Please.
it's so good to see you, Ari.
Yeah.
Okay, I wish you the very best.
Oh, man. It's good to hear you,
Dr.
Dr.
Marcus,
Marcus.
good to hear your voice. Thanks for joining us. W. Huda, you wanted to share
I have a
something?
question. Chicago, we've got this shtetl. Everybody's closed. You walk to, walk to shul, whatever. What's the shtetl situation around your Chabad house? Do people walk to shul? That they live close enough, or do people like stay at your house for like Shabbos? Is there a lot of that going on?
Yeah, we are the shtetl, but yeah, yes and yes and yes, and there, there's many different accommodations. We've had people stay with us. If you want to hear one more story, or let's say, it's Torah and 10. I don't want to overdo
We
it.
got time. We're earlier than you.
Actually, there was one time I wasn't here, and my wife stayed by a local shliach, and the shliach mentioned to her that, hey, there's a woman that lives close to you that maybe you should call her up. She usually comes to me for classes. She has the home here, so my wife called this woman up, and she's an incredible person. I'm telling you this because you asked who walks the shul. She's probably the closest one and this is how that developed, besides people staying here. She said, my wife called her on the day of the yard site of her husband, but didn't know that. And she called her and she said, I cannot believe that you're calling me today. I've been davening, I've been praying that I can move closer to a shul. I didn't imagine the shul would move closer to me. and she's incredible. She's an unbelievable person. And so we love to get to see her when she comes. And right now she's taking care of her father in Georgia. May he be well. And yeah. So that's
You're a pretty unbelievable guy yourself, and we're honored to know you and glad that you could join us for this time. Really appreciate your sharing your story. Say hello to your family for all of us. And we look forward next time you come and visit. Make sure you stop by and say hello.
Oh, man. And everybody's welcome to come visit here.
Okay, we're all coming this Shabbos.
All right. Sounds good.
We'll come in February. All right. Thank you. Good night, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow night for Pirkei Avos. Thank you
very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye-bye.